Welcome. I'd like to call the June 17th, 2014 school board meeting in session at this time. I'd like to take an opportunity to welcome you all. If you wish to speak during our hearing of citizens, please pick up a card to my left in the back of the room, print your name and topic clearly on the card, and return it to our board assistant. So Marshall sitting to my left. At the appropriate time, I'll call you up to speak. You'll be allotted 3 minutes. Please note that respect for divergent viewpoints and civility will be shown at every board meeting. I'd like to welcome Kelsey Rohr and the STAR leadership class in the audience today. Would those of you in the STAR program please stand up? Thank you. You may sit down. These students are taking their summer, high school students, to learn to be strong leaders, to sit on boards, and to do those things in high school that most people don't do until adulthood. STAR stands for Students Taking Active Roles in Sarasota County, which is a leadership training program for Sarasota County students in grades 9 through 11. I'd like to invite any available board members to stay after the meeting to meet with the students for questions and answers. Would you all please stand with me and salute the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we have our special presentations, I'd like to welcome Ms. Bridget Ziegler, sitting to my left, who is our new board member who just was sworn in this morning before our workshop. Welcome, Bridget. And now we have a special presentation. Would Mr. Scott Limpy, our Assistant Superintendent and COO, come forward, please?
Good afternoon, board members, Superintendent White, Mr. Hardy. It is my personal pleasure this afternoon to introduce you to your new Director of Long Range Planning, Ms. Kathy Ebaugh. Let me tell you a little bit about Kathy. She is a career planner, been doing this for almost 20 years now, huh? Hard to believe, 18 years, almost 20 years. Most recently in Lee County, we actually hired her from Lee County where she was their principal planner. Inherent in that duty title, principal planner, is kind of the number 2 in their planning shop. She was the number 2 in Lee County's planning office. Prior to that, she did some work in the public sector, and before that, she worked in the city of Venice as a planner. So deep experience in planning, very much of it local. I actually had a couple of interesting phone calls as I was doing reference checking after we kind of made the decision Kathy was the right person. I called her current boss at the time in Lee County, and I said, tell me about Kathy Ebaugh. And he said, I knew it was only a matter of time until I got this phone call. He said, my loss is your gain. I knew that we were going to keep her along she was ready to be a director of long-range planning, and I just knew we wouldn't hang on to her very long. I then talked to Marty Black, who some of you may remember was the city manager in Venice at the time that Kathy worked in the city of Venice. And Marty said that he recalled a conversation with Kathy where he said that your potential to be successful as a planner exceeds what we can do in Venice. There will likely come a time when you're going to have to leave the city government because we just don't have the ability to tap into the potential you have as a planner. I thought both of those things were real positive reflections of the person that we ultimately hired here. Kathy has a bachelor's degree in political science. She has a master's degree in planning. She is vice president of conference in the American Planners Association. To me, that's a big deal. I think encouraging staff to be members of their professional planning organizations is important, and to hold an office like that says that not only are you part of the organization, but you're an active participant, and I hope that continues in the time that she's with us. Not only does she have a handle on the professional part of planning, but Kathy's also a mom. Her son, Brendan, in fact, he just graduated kindergarten, didn't he? Just graduated from kindergarten at Taylor Ranch Elementary School. So not only does she understand the professional part of planning, but she sees the perspective from a citizen of the city of Venice and as a mother with a child in Sarasota County Schools. So when you bring those things together, I think it makes her the perfect candidate to run your long-range planning shop. I guess there were 2 things that really clinched the deal for me that Kathy was the right person. First, during our interview, and I don't even know if you remember this, but during our interview at one point in time, she was recalling a conversation that she had with her niece. And she said, we were in our car, we were driving down Laurel Road, and my niece was very excited, pointed out the window, and said, Kathy, that's my school. and pointed at Laurel Nacoma School. And Kathy said, you know, as a planner, whether I'm working for a city, a county, or the school board, part of my role is to find a way to make all of our citizens feel that same excitement about their community schools. And I thought, wow, that's almost a mission statement for a part of what long-range planning does. And so that excitement kind of caught my attention. And then the second thing, and maybe a little less quantifiable, but she immediately hit it off with Jody Dumas. To me, I thought if Kathy can do for long-range planning what Jody Dumas has done for our facilities department, we're going to be in great shape very quickly. So I guess those are kind of the key things for me that said that Kathy is the right person. And for those reasons, it's my pleasure to introduce you this evening to your new Director of Long-Range Planning, Ms. Kathy Eba. Kathy?
Thank you. It's my pleasure to become your Director of Long-Range Planning. Although I will let you know that the director title may never sit really comfortably with me because at first and foremost at my heart I'm a planner, and that's what I will be for my entire career. So I'm a working planner. I just happen to be the one who's leading the team, not just following the direction of someone else.
Well, I think it's really wonderful that you are here. I want to welcome you. I've had an opportunity to talk to you before. One of my dear friends is a planner, and it's something that I could not do. But I think it's really important, and as our economy continues to grow and to thrive, we will have more and more things that will be on the horizon for you to do, and I'm really excited about your being with us. I don't know if you lived in Venice and were commuting all around the...
I was.
Bless you, my child. I know that this is great for you to be back home and to be closer to family and closer to your home area. So welcome to you. Mrs. Brown.
Yes, I too wanted to say welcome. And, reading, our headlines in our papers, it looks like, we're going to be busy. We're going to have to be doing some long-range planning here, and I'm looking forward to working with you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And it is very good to be home. I was honored to work for Lee County, but the hour-and-a-half commute one way each day was wearing... My son kept saying, Mommy, when are you going to work at home? So he is most excited. He was telling everybody, even at the grocery store, Mommy's going to be working at home now.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And next we have our superintendent's report, Mrs. White.
And I'd like to ask Dr. Gerard to come forward and give us an update about our wellness policy and our food and nutrition services.
Good afternoon. How's everyone doing on this hot summer afternoon? Well, annually we give a presentation about our local wellness policy and an update about food and nutrition services. This is a requirement of the annual it's an annual requirement of our Child Nutrition Reauthorization Act of 2004. The purpose of the local wellness policy is to promote student wellness and nutrition, prevent and reduce childhood obesity, and to provide assurance that school meals meet federal nutrition standards. I can tell you there's a lot of debate going on right now in Washington about child nutrition, the meal pattern, and about exactly what we should be doing with children. We have surpassed any requirement that has ever been made of the federal government. So we don't have anything to worry about in Sarasota County. I just want to start with that statement because we do have 30 healthier U.S. school challenge schools here in Sarasota, which is a lot. And I think it's very helpful that we have 8 registered dietitians on staff in our school district. That's unheard of in a school district. So we are ahead of the game. Local wellness policy requirements require us actually to have goals for nutrition education, physical activity, and other school-based activities, to have nutrition guidelines for all foods available on school campus, and guidelines for reimbursable school meals. In our department last year, we served over 4,500 students who received nutrition education. We have 2 nutrition educators on staff. Dan Washmuth handles our senior high level, and Adriel Zahnizer handles our elementary school students. And each year we also have 3 dietetic interns who are required to have a nutrition education campaign. We do collaborate with the UF Extension Office, and we also collaborate with Lake Erie College of Medicine, where we do a Teach the Teacher program with their pharmaceutical students each year. We had a number of schools get really involved with the physical activity part of our local wellness policy last year. Cranberry Elementary had more than 400 students participate in their mileage club. There were walking school buses at a number of schools. Pineview had their first 5210 run, and over 400 participants were there as well. And one that I think was really nice, Heron Creek Middle School had a Patriots Helping Patrons Warrior Walk, where their goal was to reach $15,000 for wounded warriors. A few other things that I think you need to know about. Sometimes you hear about it in the media, but it's important for us to review. School gardens, we have over 32 in Sarasota County schools, which is just awesome. We work with a young man from UF Extension. His name is Zach Glorioso. He is part of our $100,000 USDA grant we received for Farm to School. So we have just really worked extremely well with the schools to bring the school gardens. During FCAT testing, we have probably 15 years, we've been giving complimentary snacks or breakfast rather, to our schools to prepare the kids for FCAT. We also have farm field trips, and those are extremely well received. This next year, we have a number of new requirements coming our way, but we're ready once again. If you've read in the media something called Smart Snack Guidelines, the federal government once again is giving us additional rules on how we should run the National Nutrition Program, and we're actually fine with that because we believe the more nutritional integrity we can bring to our program, the better off our kids will be in the long run. Okay. My PowerPoint's not working today, so I'm just going to make this presentation a little bit quicker than I normally would. I believe all of you have heard about our partnership with All Faith Food Bank this summer. They really took the reins on this program, All Faith Food Bank, when they put two and two together and realized that during the summer months, we have 21,000 students who may be at risk for not receiving a meal at lunchtime or possibly breakfast. I'm happy to say we've already doubled our breakfast participation over last year. Our lunches are coming along. I want to have them stand up. Now, they're not dressed up, but I told them not to worry about it. The administrators from my department who have been out everywhere today, go ahead and stand up, you guys. Dan Washmuth, Adriel Zonizer, Carla Dumas, and Sarah Dan, who have just come in from the field, essentially, delivering food and doing everything else. All four of them are RDs also. So all four of them are registered dietitians, and that is great. I mentioned previously that we received a $100,000 USDA Farm to School grant. We were one of only 4 agencies in the entire nation to receive that grant. So we've taken that very seriously. We hired a farm to school liaison, and our goal, once again, is to increase our local produce purchases to 50% of our entire produce bill. Our supper club was extremely well received this year. We started as a pilot in May of 2013, expanded the program to 13 schools this school year, and will add Tuttle Elementary School next year for a total of 14 programs. I think you'll be shocked by this number, but with a change to our direct certification program, which is where we're actually partnering with the state to identify children who are already recipients of the SNAP program, or what we used to call food stamps, we're now up to 52.18% free and reduced in our school district. So we have exceeded and obviously surpassed our 50% that we normally talk about. We're really hoping as the economy improves to see a reduction, but we've not seen that yet. I do want to mention, since we're talking about an annual update, just a couple of quotes that the Department of Agriculture added in their annual review this year. Just so you know, we receive an administrative review once every 3 years in our department, and here's a couple of remarks from our auditors. The district's outstanding knowledge of federal programs was apparent to food and nutrition wellness staff. That's our reviewers from the State Department. The innovative Food and Nutrition Services staff has developed delicious, healthy recipes that are enticing to students and staff. And then finally, a striking observation for reviewers was that the district's wellness policy, while excellent on paper, is embraced by school and district staff and enthusiastically supported by Sarasota County. I appreciate the role that our school board has played in this because you all have been extremely supportive of our department over the years. I brag about who we have to work for, including Lori and Scott, to anyone who will listen, because we cannot run a good and sound child nutrition program without the support of you. So we appreciate that so much. If you have not had an opportunity, we have a new program on our website called NutriSlice, and you can go online and receive all sorts of information. This is especially important for children who may have food allergies. You can actually go into the website, click on the menu, and all of the allergens, the food allergens, are indicated for each menu day. I just want to repeat a little saying that my friend Adrielle gave me earlier today. A healthy attitude is contagious, but don't wait to catch it from others. Be a carrier. We try to have a really positive attitude in our department because we are given the opportunity to feed kids. And for us, there is no more noble profession than to feed kids in a school district. So we really appreciate your support. We look forward to a wonderful 2014-15 with all sorts of new regulations, but we will embrace them and make them happen. So thank you very much.
Hold on a minute. Stay right there.
Yes, ma'am.
Mrs. Zucker.
Dr. Gerard, I can't thank you enough. I'm so happy that you're in the role that you're in.
Thank you.
Because you have done amazing things with for Sarasota County and Sarasota County students. Would you explain the supper club?
I will explain the supper club. We have an opportunity at our schools that have 50% or higher free and reduced to provide an evening meal. What we've actually done is we have replaced the old snack program that you may be familiar with, the after-school snack program. We realize that there are a number of children out there in our school district who may be going home after a long day of school and daycare and may not get home until 6:30, sometimes later in the evening. What we've heard from parents is they're tired, and the children are tired, the parents are tired, and if we have the opportunity to feed the children at, say, 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, we do not serve a large meal, but it's enough to get them through the afternoon. Parents, in some cases, go ahead and serve an evening meal, but it's just something more for children, and it's much more nutritionally balanced than the snacks were that we provided in the past. We have seen a lot of success from this program.
When I speak to people around our community, they're amazed by the fact that at the time it was 50% of our kids are on free and reduced lunch, because how can you live in Sarasota County and have more than half of your students on free and reduced lunch? Because they only see the better parts of Sarasota and they don't see the poverty and they're not aware of it. I'm so grateful for you and your staff for what you do. And it's not an easy job lifting those, because I've served on the lines, and it's not an easy job lifting those pans and washing those pots and doing all of that stuff. And I thank you for your leadership, Beverly. It has been extraordinary. Thank you.
We have an amazing staff in our department, so
You
I
do.
appreciate that. Thank you.
Mrs. Brown.
Yes, I can see why you were with the food nutritionist, the director of the year for the state of Florida. What? Something like that. Yeah, we're just we can see why that happens. You know, and I also like the way you've got your red, green, yellow foods, but that go slow, because sometimes that food that we sometimes label as junk food, we find ourselves in because we're in a hurry, driving through McDonald's and picking up that junk food, and you have to explain to the kids, well, that's one of those go slow things that once in a while it's not going to kill you. But why is nutrition so important? I think we all received a letter in our box today, and when we get these copied letters, sometimes they don't have a name on them, and oftentimes they're something we don't want to read. But this one I thought was interesting. It was written to Dr. Moore over at McIntosh Middle School. To whom it may concern, I'd like to express my thanks to the staff and social workers at McIntosh Middle School, from Dr. Moore, Dr. Clay, for their extreme cooperation with very challenging 13-year-old, their patience and ability to see I can't read that. These professionals never gave up on him. But I would be amiss if I did not thank Anita Stevens, who, without hesitation in a very small time period, appeared like an angel with enough nutritious food that lasted while I was trying to get on my feet. Much to my embarrassment, I found it necessary to request her help again and again. Within 24 hours, she arrived in my driveway with food, and then also talked about how she had help getting with gift certificates to the to different grocery stores. And she ends by saying, this seems to be the times of grandparents raising grandchildren. Most of us on Social Security and limited income. Thanks to the above-named school staff, it was possible for me to try and adjust. Over 30%, I believe, of children are being raised by grandparents, and I know that's something our chair has been very interested in. But it's important to know that this child needed not only the adjustment to be with his grandparents, but the mother did not have money in her Social Security check to provide for the foods, and that's real faces on some of those things that you do. Thank you for what you've done.
I think it's important for me to mention right now the new direct certification program that has been given to us by the state of Florida actually addresses children on Medicaid who sometimes are living with their grandparents. So that's where we have seen a large increase in our free and reduced. Thank you so much.
Dr. Gerard, I'm not done. You know how I feel about you. I just think you're absolutely the best. I know how hard you work. I know how hard your staff works. I know what challenging job this can be. I know the summer program, and gee, that's sailing off. The partnership that we're having with All Face. I mean, usually they have nothing on their shelves. They have zip in the summertime. And all those things are really part of your excellent leadership. I happened to meet Adam Putnam last week, our Director of Agriculture for the state, and he said, is there anything I can do for you? And I said, well, maybe there's something that we can do for you because we have Dr. Gerard in our great food services department. He said, yeah, he said, there's none like it. It's the very best that there is. And I thought that was just a really nice, confirmation to have. But thank you for all you've done. I know you've had some personal issues this year that have been very challenging for you, and we get it. We know how important this is to our students. And not only that, but with a free and reduced lunch of over 50%, and having those great grades that we have, the great scores that we have, the great place that we are in the 67 counties in this district. I think, if we probably equated the free and reduced to the great scores, we probably have to move us up a few points because I've had people who have said that to me. But thank you for your leadership, and thank you for all you do
very
for
much.
Kids.
Thank you.
I also wanted to take this opportunity to recognize someone where this is his last board meeting. Executive Director Mike Jones of Human Resources will be retiring, and I know his wife is celebrating that this is his last board meeting, but he has finally decided all good things come to an end, and there's more to this journey that awaits him. So I wanted to thank him for his service and let the board know, since he's been a frequent attendee of your board meetings.
Mr. Jones, would you please stand?
And that concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you, Mr. Jones, for your service. It's been a remarkable experience to work with you. Next, we have our hearing of citizens. I have one card. Would Mr. Paul Schaefer come forward, please? Mr. Schaefer, there is a red button on the front of that microphone. Please press that so that it lights up red. You will be given 3 minutes to speak, and as the time runs down and it's 1 minute, there'll be a caution light that will go on, and 3 minutes is it. So, welcome.
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, I would like to thank the board members for their public service. I know it's not an easy task. Second, from what I have seen in my 5 years in Sarasota, you're doing a great job of educating children. The board, the administrators, teachers, staff members should all be commended. Third, I understand that you do not make the election rules, nor can you change them. But I truly believe that the election process for school board members is biased. Allow me to elaborate. Candidates for the school board must be reasonably wealthy, have a lot of generous friends, or be politically well connected. Otherwise, they will face a steep uphill election battle. The school district is divided into 5 electoral districts, but a candidate must run and be elected countywide, not merely in his or her district. Thus, candidates must campaign throughout the entire county. Obviously, campaigning countywide is a much more expensive undertaking than campaigning in a single district. The effect of having countywide elections therefore favors those candidates with access to money or political influence. One would have thought the school board races would be less influenced by money and politics. One would have been wrong. While I understand the candidates for other offices run countywide, they have all the advantages associated with the political party and its machinery. Having a single-member district has several advantages. One, a smaller constituency encourages a stronger connection between candidates and their electorate and increases accountability. More importantly, I think single-member districts will encourage more candidates of moderate means to run because they would have a better chance of winning in a smaller voting area. Our political system has always favored, and probably always will, favor the wealthy, the well-to-do, the affluent, and the politically connected. But these factors should be minimized in nonpartisan school board races. Thank you for your attention.
There are no additions or corrections to the consent agenda. May I have a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Please vote. Motion carries 5-0. We have one item that was pulled for comment. It was item number 16. Mrs. Brown, would you like to make comment, please?
Yes, this is the approval of the charter contract between Imagine Schools at Palmer Ranch and the Board of Sarasota County. When we were looking at the extension of the contract, this is for 15 years, we had some concerns about, A, their budget and their test scores. And they promised they'd be looking into it. I haven't heard back yet from them how the finances have improved or maybe if they'd renegotiated their contract. But I was disappointed that their test scores, their FCAT scores, hadn't improved as much as they did. Perhaps I'll could speak to their board at their next board meeting. But we as a board have to approve this because they are listed under the state as a high-performing school. So our hands are tied. We have to approve it. But I don't have to like it.
Thank you. Now we'll move on to new business. May I have a motion on item number 31, please?
I would move that the lease agreement between the Fall Haber Foundation and the School Board of Sarasota County, Florida, be approved as presented.
Second.
May I have Dr. Todd Bowden and Mrs. Ping Fall Harbor come forward, please, with information, exciting information about this program.
Good afternoon. The contract that you have before you today is for a 2-year relationship with the Faulhaber Foundation, but I wanted to give you a little bit of background about how that contract came to be, because I think it's probably interesting to note that it started with a teacher. One of our teachers had a relationship with the Fab Lab back when it was located at Gee Whiz. When Gee Whiz closed, the Fab Lab essentially became homeless. And so one of our instructors brought that to our attention and said it's just a tremendous resource. And not only does it need a home, but it needs a home on our campus. So we made a cold call, literally just called and says, we know you have all this interesting equipment. You have a mission that is similar to ours. Is there an opportunity to work together? And they responded favorably to that cold call. And we put together a proposal that we made to the superintendent to repurpose Building 28. I also want to recognize Scott Limpy, our Deputy Superintendent and Chief Operating Officer, because I want to recognize his instructional focus, because at the time that we made that proposal, Scott had plans in the works to relocate part of his operations there. But he took one look at this project and said, I don't know how I can continue to advance my proposal knowing that there's such a unique opportunity for your campus. So I want to thank you for your support and your instructional focus. He recognized what a great opportunity it was for us. But not only do we get the Fab Lab on our campus, we get the FALHABers. And I can tell you over the last couple of months, what a resource that is. If you don't know Fritz and Ping, they are tremendous supporters. And our agreement will go beyond the Fab Lab to a science center concept that includes a lending library. So what I want you to know is that this is a project that it started with a teacher. It was pursued by school-based administrators, but it was supported by our district administration at the highest levels. And so I think we're going to have a tremendous resource on our campus for our students, and we get access to the FALHABers. And so it's just a win-win-win on all fronts. I'd like to introduce to you Ping FALHABer, who serves as the executive director of the FALHABer Foundation.
Thank you, Dr. Bolden. That's your name, right? I'm upside around. Sorry. My daughter always correct me. And well, thank you very much that for Dr. Bolden for recognize, and also Mr. Scalabi and Superintendent Nori White. When they talk to us, when we start this conversation, they really have the vision. They really say how great this resources for the students and for the teachers. Like Dr. Borden said, not only the Fab Lab, we really encourage the kids to making stuff, to create things, to have fun. It's a place outside the classroom. But also we have other things, even in this Building 28, we're going to have classrooms. We've been doing the scientific lending library that since 2006. What we do is we provide the experiment kit to the teachers to helping the kids. They can play, they can learn in the classroom. We provide for the teacher. We deliver for them. We train them. We pick them up, and all at no cost to the teachers. So we think there's wonderful resources. And I've been talking to Dr. Bolden this morning. I'm going to actually have a meeting tomorrow with Ms. Nori White. We want to actually get to know more about school, how we can better serving the needs of the students and the teachers. So we're very excited about this opportunity, and we want to thank everybody and thank the school board for your support. We're looking forward to working together to better serve our schools. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I, of course, have known you for a while, and was so disappointed to see what happened to GWhiz. And I think this is just a great partnership that we can fuse together. Cold calls are always good, right, Dr. Bowden? I mean, I'm really a believer in cold calls and just, pick up the phone or go and visit someone. But I think this is great. Thanks to our team. Thanks for Mr. Limpy and for Mrs. White. And I think this is going to be a very, very good thing for our students. The more things we can do to make it easier for students to understand and embrace science at an earlier age, the better they'll be prepared for the new world. Mrs. Brown.
I, too, want to thank you not only for this, but for all you've done for our schools. And I think it's great that we're going to have so many things there on that campus, for our students to, interact with the Florida House and now the Fab Lab. EdExplore is a good website that will connect different programs in the community with our education department. And I don't know if you're already looking into that, but that is a spot that you can go. And thank you, and looking forward to working with you.
Go ahead. Mrs. Zucker.
I just wanted to say it's taken about 10 years now. No, not quite. Maybe 7 years. My grandson wanted to go into the Fab Lab when it was at GWhiz, but he was too young. And they locked the doors on him, so he's not too young anymore. And I'm glad to see he'll have an opportunity to do this. So thank you very much, Ping. It's much appreciated.
Any other discussion? Please vote. And the vote passes 5-0. Let's move on to the next item, which is item number 32. May I have a motion? Speak all at once.
Move that the revised school board policies 3.23, 5.323, 6.39, 8.10, 8.16, and 9.21 be approved as presented.
Second.
Jane, I think I was the only one that could read that. That's why.
And I think we're on item 33.
32.
We're on item number 32, aren't we?
The least
We're on-
It
agreement
says
was
33
32.
on my agenda.
Well, I've got 32, 31, and 32. Anyway, we're on the item about the school board policies. And before we take a vote, I'd like Mr. Darrell Rika, our Director of Security, to come forward and to give us a little bit of background on Policy 5.323, the bullying and harassment, because we've received a lot of letters from parents and our community relative to changes that we've made. And these are changes that have come down from state. Mr. Rika.
Good afternoon, Mrs. Goodwin, members of the board, Mrs. White, Mr. Hardy. On May 6th, we brought to the board recommendations for revisions to 5 school board policies related to areas of safety and security. 4 of those policies contained relatively minor revisions, either recommended by EMCS or by staff to update language related to legal requirements. The recommended revisions to our district bullying and harassment policy were a little more comprehensive and, as Mrs. Goodwin said, did generate some comments from the public questioning the reason for and the authority for the recommended revisions. I think it's important we understand that we made these recommendations related to the bullying and harassment policy for 2 reasons. The first is to ensure the policy is aligned with Florida Statute 1006.147, often cited as the Jeffrey Johnson Stand Up for Students Act. Language included in our recommended policy revision was taken directly from the Florida statute. The second reason is a little bit more complicated. During a Florida Department of Education compliance audit last year, we were found we may have been out of compliance with bullying and harassment as it relates to staff and volunteers. I say may have been out of compliance because we did have an existing policy and it did address staff and volunteers. However, it was filed in the student chapter of bullying and harassment of board policy. So it was a little bit difficult for people to see when we pointed to bullying and harassment why it would be in the student policy. Our initial thoughts was to create a new policy and put it in Chapter 6, Human Resources. As we worked through that process, we came to realize we were going to end up with 2 policies very similar in 2 different places in board policy, and that didn't make a lot of sense. So after consulting with Mr. Hardy and staff at the Department of Education, we determined it would make more sense to develop one concise policy and file it in Chapter 2 under School Board Governance and Organization. Bullying is taken very seriously by our district and by our school administrators. National statistics indicate over 160,000 students a day are absent from school because of fears of being bullied through verbal, social, physical, or cyberbullying. A Yale University study indicated bullying victims are between 2 and 9 times more likely to consider suicide than non-victims. And a study in Britain found that at least half of the suicides among young people are related to bullying. Understanding the definition of bullying, I think, is really important if we're going to maintain an effective anti-bullying program within our schools. Bullying is unwanted aggressive behavior that involves a real or perceived power imbalance. The behavior is repeated or has the potential to be repeated over time. Bullying includes actions such as making threats, spreading rumors, attacking someone physically or verbally, and excluding someone from a group on purpose. Cyberbullying, with its availability 24/7, often being anonymous, and its difficulty in deleting inappropriate messages or harassing messages, certainly adds a complicated layer to the elements of bullying as we've known them in the past. We believe it's important to maintain a clear, well-defined bullying and harassment policy in order to provide a safe and positive school environment, that we ensure personnel never ignore bullying behaviors, and that we continue to provide the resources to ensure an effective anti-bullying program district-wide. I hope that helps some understanding of what it is that caused us to bring these recommendations to you. Any questions on the bullying and harassment policy or the other 4 policies that we brought to you?
I think that gives us a good explanation, and there were folks out there that thought we were infringing on people's rights, and we certainly are making every effort to work toward less bullying and less harassment for our students. It makes really good sense to do some of this. And, of course, we're always guided by statutes and always guided by the legislature. So thank you, Mr.
We
Riker.
appreciate Mr. Hardy's help through that whole complicated process.
Yes.
So, thank you.
Thank you. This is item number 33. Excuse me for my error in the numbering system. Can we now please vote? The ayes carry 5-0. The vote passes. Now it brings us to item number 34, which is the evaluation of the superintendent. The superintendent's employment contract provides for an evaluation each year on or before June 30th. The recommendation is that the school board evaluates the superintendent's performance for the 2013-2014 year as highly effective, needs improvements, or unsatisfactory. May I have a motion, please, on this, and then we will open this up for discussion after the motion.
I would move that the school board evaluates the superintendent's performance for the 2013-2014 year as highly effective.
Okay, we've got a second. Should we have discussion at this point?
Sure.
And we have all just recently evaluated the superintendent. Who would like to start the evaluation? Would you like to make any comments, Mr. Kovach?
I'll wait.
Okay, Mrs.
They go on and on. So I'll
Mrs.
let that
Okay,
go on.
Mrs. Zucker. How about Mrs. Zucker?
Okay, Mrs. Zucker. Excuse me. Under the first one, which is educational leadership, there has been a continued increase in the amount of technology that is available to the students and teachers. Sarasota County is the 3rd highest performing district in Florida in academic performance. It is one of only 5 among 67 school districts in Florida. The required student performance-based evaluation system for teachers and school-based administrators was successfully implemented this year. I think that Mrs. White deserves highly effective for that area. And then if we go on to operations of the district, Mrs. White, along with Mr. Limpy, have worked extremely hard to quantify qualitative measurements as they apply to the operations of the school system. That's not an easy thing to do, to quantify qualitative measurements. I've tried. Finance, highly effective. Mrs. White, working with staff, worked extremely hard this year trying to anticipate the appropriations that would be approved by the legislature. Unfortunately, this was a year of unpredictability. However, we are still within the board's required fund balance of coming in between 7.5 and 10%. Recommendations would be continue to work to reduce spending. Savings wherever possible has been the culture of this district over the last 7 years. The last one is communication and board community relations, which again I marked are highly effective. The passage of the referendum is indicative of the community support for education in Sarasota County. I believe that all of our partners in education, families, community, and business members came together to support the Sarasota County school system. That happened as a result of all of these entities being engaged in public education. I believe Mrs. White has done an amazing job of collaborating with our local governments as well as the other partners. One just needs to look at the Venice Performing Arts Center, SCTI, Arts Alliance, Chamber of Commerce, on and on and on and on, to see the many partnerships and the great communication that Mrs. White has accomplished this last year. Thank you.
Mrs. Brown.
I, too, rated Mrs. White highly effective. I won't repeat what she said, but paraphrase. On educational leadership, she works well with our staff and centers all of her decisions on student achievement. We've seen that time and time again, and again, the proof is in the standings that Ms. Zucker noted. And under operations, too, I said highly effective, because I am proud of the way our district maintains our facilities and assets and the deliberative method that we took when we did our building, when we had the funds available, and saved billions of dollars in doing that. And the goals of good service, efficiency, and cost savings are well managed within our district. And the finance always targeted those cuts that we've had to make over the last 4 years away from the classroom. And the transparency that we've had in our funding, the reports and the audits are all been on the website, and everything is there for the public to see and easily accessed. And under community relations, we cannot help but say that 77% approval of the referendum shows that this district is actively engaged and communicates well with families, community, and business leaders. And the additional information on their website is presented, and we're even going to be seeing an update on what our website looks like to make it more interactive. And thank you for your leadership in all those areas.
Mr. Kovach.
Earlier in the meeting, I was listening to Beverly talk about food service and about what a terrific food service department that we have, and that's because Beverly is very highly skilled and dedicated to her job, as are the people that work with her in her department. Then you think of people, Scott Lempe, very highly skilled and very effective, and has great people working with him, and you can go down the list, Al Wagner and Mitzi and those people. I mean, they're very highly skilled, very dedicated to their jobs, and have terrific people working under them. I mean, we have a very, very well-run school district, and you're the boss, and you do a terrific job doing it because you're highly skilled and very dedicated to your job. Having been at this job for a long time, I've seen when I question some of that, but I certainly don't question that in this environment and what's the way our like the other board members said, what a highly ranked school district we are. And I mean, we're just, it's you and the people that work with you being, like I said before, being highly skilled and dedicated. And I commented on my, whatever that thing's called, the evaluation that, in my mind, really the community evaluated you in March. And, the vast, vast majority of them said that you're doing a terrific job. And I think you're doing a terrific job, and you're certainly highly qualified. And I give credit where credit is due, and you certainly deserve it.
Mrs. Ziegler.
Lori, I didn't have the opportunity to complete the evaluation, being that today is my first day on the job. So I will be abstaining, but I will say that I am very excited to work alongside of you and this strong board that we have. So I'm very excited. Thank you.
Mr. Hardy.
And just so the board is aware, and Ms. Ziegler, I appreciate the rationale behind saying you were going to abstain, and that makes perfect sense to me. Unfortunately, that's not what the law allows. The law, as it applies to school board members, is that unless there is a conflict of interest, voting on something for your employer or something like that, that board members have to vote if they're present. So while it makes perfect sense what you said, the law doesn't always make perfect sense.
And that's the way it goes on the school board. We have very little authority to make decisions, but we just try to do the best that we can. I will be the last to speak, and you may call it a love fest, you may call it many other things, but I have such respect for Lori White. I've worked with her as chair now this is my second year in a row. We work very well together. We're very different people. I gave her highly effective in everything because I've yet to ever ask her a question she couldn't answer. She's a high degree of intellect. She has a high degree of common sense. That doesn't normally happen. people are very intelligent, and then they, have trouble making common sense decisions. But she has both. She's brilliant. She's a humble servant, and a humble servant who's always there, but not looking to upstage anyone. Always there to help answer questions, no matter what direction they come from, and she can always answer those tough questions. We worked together very closely during the referendum, before it, during and after, and it was just a real pleasure. And yes, the community did vote largely on Lori White. In any polling I've seen in the last couple of years, the most respected public official in the county is Lori White. And a lot of what we're doing and the high achievement that we have in this district is relative to her leadership and that of the staff, the teachers union across the street, and all of us working together really hard every day in every way. In the educational leadership portion, obviously, being one of the best school districts in the state, and if you look at our free and reduced lunch, we probably are the #1 school district in the state because all of the competitive school districts don't have as high a free and reduced as we do. But I think we did improve our scores from our minorities, our Black, our Hispanic, our ELL students. Those things are really, really important to me, and I know her leadership and her leadership in helping those in need and those kids in the lower quartiles. In operations, thank you, Scott Limpy, for coming to the school district from Tommy Frank's staff. Because we do run our operations as a business. We don't run classrooms as a business. We run our operations as a business, and he does an admirable job. And I love telling the stories of, taking mops out and putting those spraying machines in. And I can embellish Jody's facilities department a lot, but again, we have great food service, great transportation, and all those operations areas are really run very, very efficiently. In finance, what can you say about people that you truly trust, except recalculate, recalculate. And between Mitzi Cochran and her staff and continuing to reallocate funds and making sure that we know what position we're in from month to month, and that does change, having those national awards for excellent in financial reporting for 9 years in a row. This doesn't happen by accident. Cutting the budget every year, cutting it $3.8 million last year, knowing that we'll be cutting it again this year, and finding a way. Every time finding a way. And then last but not least, the communications with the board and community. And that's really me being the advocate that I am for schools, and working on the referendum and out talking to people and listening to parents and listening to community leaders. She has really involved in United Way, in the Chamber of Commerce, and so many different arenas of this community arts. And I just, I know how hard our communications department works and how they react to all of the media outlets, and how hard we make sure that we give out factual and complete and concise information. And during the referendum, getting some of that information out, the TV broadcasts, the special programs we did this year, the monthly updates that she gives, which are always so insightful. So, we have Lori White for 3 more years, and it's going to be a great ride. It's going to be a great opportunity. We should stay forever. But my hat goes off to her because I think with her leadership and her team of dedicated employees, we really have nailed it, and I think there's nothing but better times ahead. So thank you, Lori White.
And I am humbled by your comments. They mean a lot to me because I will tell you, in leading a district, it takes the support of board members like you. I love the perspective you bring. I love the feedback you give me. It makes us stronger. And I also have an incredible staff, as you've recognized. You can't do it alone. You bring quality people together, and you work together. So we have a lot to be proud of. And again, I am honored to lead this school district. I will always be a part of this community. And together we can do great things. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And now let's vote. And the vote carries 5-0. And that's great. And now we move on to the important announcements and comments, communications at the end of our board meeting. Does anyone have anything to add?
I have nothing to say.
I'm amazed.
You know why that was? Because the first time you prefaced it by important announcement.
Well, I'd like to make an announcement about Caroline Zucker. Caroline Zucker, who sits to my right, is on the board of directors for Sarasota and Charlotte County. Representing Charlotte and Sarasota on the board of directors, and also the chair of the federal relations for FSBA. So this is the State School Board Association. She's been very, very involved in the state organization for a long time, and she's continuing her leadership role there, and we really appreciate all you're doing for us. Federal is something that, you know, we don't always get involved with as much as we do state and local. So with Caroline's leadership, we'll know much more about federal funding in the future, I'm sure. There will be an art show at the Newtown Public Library that begins this weekend, this Friday. There will be a children's event on Saturday afternoon from 1 to 3. Commissioner Carolyn Mason came to us last month to discuss that. I want to encourage you all to attend this art exhibit of our students and of other folks from the community of Newtown. I also want to say that our next regular board meeting, we have a little time off, will be July the 22nd at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and a tentative budget meeting will be July 22nd at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. If there are no more comments, we're adjourned.